Joshua Smith here, and welcome to the GSD Mode Podcast. Now get shit done and smash that subscribe button now. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode Podcast interview. Every single week, I interview top real estate professionals, top entrepreneurs, and straight up top badasses that are out there dominating their space. And today, guys, we got a special rock star, amazing guest here on the GSD Mode Podcast. Our guest today, Aaron Kirman. Now, Aaron is the man when it comes to luxury real estate, you guys. So Aaron has personally sold over $7 billion in real estate. He is the number one real estate agent in Los Angeles, number 5 in the United States, has his own primetime show on CNBC called Listing Impossible, and he is the go-to luxury realtor for the elite, man. This dude represents probably more billionaires. I don't know if this is a fact or not, but I'm guessing represents more billionaires and more wealthy elites out there than anybody else on this journey. I mean, this is the man, not just in Los Angeles, but on a global scale when it comes to luxury real estate. And in this GSD Mode Podcast interview with Aaron, man, he breaks down how he got started 20 years ago in the industry, how he broke into the luxury market, and he's very, very open and real and transparent about the things that used to work that have changed and what works now today and what's most important, especially if you want to go after the affluent clientele base and so forth. All right, you guys, so before we jump into this amazing podcast with Aaron, make sure if you haven't already that you go snag my new book, Dominate Your Real Estate Business Top Tips from a Top Producer. It's 42 tips. Each chapter is a different tip. And these are top tips, strategies, methods that I personally implemented and used and do currently use in my business that have allowed me to become one of the top realtors and team leaders on the planet. There's nothing being sold. It's a digital ebook copy that will be in your email box within seconds. Again, nothing being sold. It's just great tips, great content, just like this podcast is all about, to help you massively grow your business and dominate your own real estate business. Go grab your copy right now at joshuasmithfreebook.com. Again, joshuasmithfreebook.com. All right, let's jump on into this amazing podcast interview with Aaron. All right, Aaron, my man, welcome to the GSD Mode Podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, man, I'm so excited for this, dude. I mean, it's a huge honor. You've created such an amazing career and created so much success in your real estate career, and man, it's just an honor to be able to have you on the show and be able to pick your brain from all of us to learn from you. I first discovered you on YouTube on a CNBC video called "Make It."
Yeah, okay.
And I saw that clip, saw that video. I'm like, man, I mean, not only are you, extremely successful from real estate and just overall business, that aspect of it, but dude, like you're, just this amazing down to earth guy, right? You also are, having those conversations with your clients that sometimes are hard conversations that they need to hear. And, I saw that as just like, man, we got to get this guy on the show so we can learn from him. And so, yeah, hope to have you here. And, before we get into all the amazing things that you're up to today, I'm always intrigued in our guest journeys that led them here in this place. So rewind the clocks, what was the journey and the path that led you to getting into real estate in the first?
Yeah. Funny enough, I always knew I wanted to be in real estate ever since I was a little kid. I think I was like 5 or 6. And I remember I grew up from a lower middle class family. My mom was a teacher. My dad was in trucking. And, they had this little house and it was periphery by all these bigger houses. So I always saw some wealth. And I remember just wanting to be a part of that. And I used to make my parents, and I remember like they had no intention of moving. They couldn't afford to move. And I think I was like 6 or 7, and we would be driving around in these fancy cars, looking at houses. And I would always try to convince my parents that we should move. And that was at like 6 and 7. And as life went on, I grew up with severe dyslexia. I had learning disabilities. I had a really bad speech impediment. I still, academically, was never good. And to be honest, I almost had to cheat my way through school. In fact, I did have to cheat my way through school. So real estate was pretty much the only thing that I was able to do, because I knew that I couldn't work for somebody. I knew that I couldn't have a boss. And it was just something that I was always very passionate about.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. So then was it one of those things where you had that clarity? I mean, from 6, that came on an early age, but was it like, okay, 18 years old, graduate high school, you jump right in, or
So,
did you
18 years old, so I finished high school, and my parents at the time couldn't afford to pay for school, like a good private school. And I wanted to go to USC, of which I got rejected, and I wrote them a letter, and eventually I got it accepted. And the way to pay for it was for me to join ROTC, the Army, and then after, serve time. Again, that just wasn't my game. I actually got rejected from the ROTC program after a couple months, and I found myself at USC not being able to afford it, and thought to myself, okay, what am I going to do now? And so that was the beginning of my real estate career, because I started, I was waiting tables, I think at the Cheesecake Factory to pay for it. So, of which, by the way, I got fired because my math was always wrong, and I always ended up owing the house money. And I started interning at a couple of real estate companies. I got fired from those, and took out some loans to pay for college. And it was the day that I graduated that I was like, I can't work for somebody. I can't be an assistant. So I better make it. And so I got my license, and I went independent very quickly.
Yep. Love it, man. So then you walk us through, those early years, man. I mean, because we know statistically 90% of real estate agents drop out in the first 3 years. And I mean, this industry's tough. I mean, all business is tough, but what was that first year or so like that allowed you to get the momentum, to not become one of those statistics where, allowed you to stay in the game and build the momentum that's eventually led to where you're at today?
So I'm old now. I'm like, in my early 40s. When I started, though, this business wasn't like it is today. Everybody, when I said I'm going to be in real estate, everyone thought, oh, that's the type of business my grandma does. That's what, it was a very different type of industry. And it was led by a lot of leaders that had done it for years, that were a certain segment of our population. And so I feel like it was a different moment, and I was like the young guy, and today wealth patterns have changed. But back then, to have somebody at that age doing real estate was a real handicap for me, because people just didn't take me that seriously. But it was just something that I always felt like, I remember my mom was telling me, there was some appointment that came up, and I was 2 months in the business, and my mom was in my car, and I took her, and when I left, she goes, God, it felt like you had done this for 30 years. And it was just something that I was lucky, because it was so natural for me. And because I had so many setbacks growing up, that I, with reading and writing and even talking, that I really I think I was able to hone my skills on human nature and how to relate to people. And I think that's what sort of got me lifted.
Yep. No, I love that, man. Yeah. Well, and then I got to admit, like, as you mentioned, having to overcome so much adversity, you had that self-confidence of that, that stuff's possible.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. The funny thing is, in life, I didn't have that self-confidence. With friends, I didn't have that self-confidence. With everything, I didn't have the self-confidence. The one thing that I had self-confidence was, and I didn't realize it at the time, but because I had studied people for so many years, and because I was kind of an outsider, and because I didn't fit in, and because I had to cheat through school, which is not something that I'm proud of today, I think that I just became like a master salesman and understanding what people want, what people are looking for, how to obtain those goals. And even then, like, it was hard, but I would say what really set me apart was I got fired from a couple big firms. And at the time there was this like little niche firm that specialized in architecture. It was like an 8-person firm, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what architecture was. I didn't know what design was. I had no idea. But because it was so niche, I just kind of took on that niche, and I was able to formulate a really, at the time, a niche for myself, which was specializing in really cool architectural houses, and people started to come to me for a product. for that product.
Yep. No, that's awesome, man. I love it. So then, with that, and because this is a question I get a lot from, people that are listeners to the podcast, because we get, obviously a lot of real estate agents and professionals that are listening to this, but also, people that are considering this career. And, for that young agent that is thinking about getting in the career, because still today, I think your average agent is 57 years old. So it can be, right, that 18-year-old or 20-year-old that's wanting to jump in the business. Maybe it's just a limiting belief in their mind, but it sounds like it was of having that mastering the skill set of how to connect with people and the selling aspect, and then niching down. Is that what your advice would be for
I think it's different today. I think what happened was our business is probably the most glamorous business in the world, but it looks glamorous, especially if you're selling luxury and, the money that we can make. And so everyone wanted to get into our business. And I think a lot of what propelled that interest was the television shows, $1 Million Listing. I don't even know what the other ones that exist, Selling Sunset. I think my show was the least of the glamour shows because I think it showed real. But I think from there, what we started seeing was two things. We saw people really want to get in the business, and we saw wealth patterns change. Wealthy became a lot younger because of technology. And so that just changed the way we do business. And so today, if you're trying to get into this business, it's exceptionally difficult because 10% of the people do 90% of the business. And there's a big lock on neighborhoods, houses, cities in general. And so if you wanted to get into this, or if I was getting into the business today, I would say work for somebody who is at the top of a neighborhood, a city, a house, a structure. Work with somebody that has a lot of business that you can learn from, that has overflow business, so that eventually you can build your own brand and name. Because I think the business changed since we started, and it became much more competitive. It's filled with people. There's if I remember correctly, 3 million licensees in the US, something like that. I know in our general region, we have 70,000 it's insane. And the competition's out there, and the top are the top, and it's hard to break in. So to break in, somebody has to be super smart, super strategic, and really, I would say, work with somebody that has ownership of it.
Yeah. Yep. Love it, man. Powerful stuff. So then, going back into your journey, because I want to be able to, learn more and kind of dissect and learn from your journey that led to, because look, you're number one in your market, number 5 in the United States. You're top dog in what you do, not just on a local level, but a national level. And, a lot of, and part of this might be from the shows like you mentioned, but a lot of agents that, want to break into that luxury market and so forth, and it looks fun and sexy. They may not know the work and the mastering the skill sets, this 20 years of foundation that you created that's allowed you to, do all of these things. And, so you get let go from a couple firms, which end up being a blessing because you get into this architecture, niche. Going down that path and being that niche down, how did that, because it sounds like that is kind of really what propelled you into the luxury market. How did that kind of transition and pivot into that, and how'd that work?
The stupidest story, actually. I had a title at a very luxury firm. I was the executive director of their division, and I had a year that wasn't bad financially, but it was a tough year. And I remember I had about $600 million in inventory, and I hated half or more of those clients. And it was just a struggle, and I wasn't loving my life. And I was at a point financially where I still needed to work, but not as hard. And I didn't know what to do. And so I was going to launch this tech company. And at the time, a friend of the partner that I was going to launch with said, you don't need to be at such an established firm and pay X percentage. Go to a different firm and get the highest split, because that's what's going to help, our thing. So long story short, I interviewed a bunch of people and took the holidays off and came back. And all of a sudden I was rolling again. And I was happy. And a couple of important people were calling me to try to switch. And I said, look, I'm probably not switching, but if I do, you better give me an offer that I can't refuse. So at the time, John Arrow Group gave me an offer I can't refuse, and my title of as executive director of architecture was taken, but he's like, I'll give you the title of president of estates. At that point, I had already had the database, the clients, the celebrities, the royals. I mean, I'd already had it. It was just a title. And so I just put all my focus in the uber high-end luxury. And with that little switch, we went from running architectural division to pretty much selling the most expensive houses in the world. Not that I wasn't doing it before, but we really branded it as such.
Yep. No.
The reason is because the title, my original title was taken. So
yeah. It's funny how things work out in life sometimes and what they lead to. And before we get into kind of like the branding and the marketing aspect that can help bring these clients in and so forth, from all your experience of working with, some of the most high-end clients on the planet and working with, billionaire clients and so forth, for those that are looking to get into this niche or wanting to get into the luxury, market and have success in that space, like what would you say are the most important things that agents at a high level need to understand, with that niche, with that type of clientele before they start doing the marketing, before they start doing the branding, these are the main things you got to be prepared for.
So basically you're dealing with the top of the food chain. Like these people are running multi-billion-dollar companies. They're celebrities. They're royals. I mean, they're whatever they want. And these people are usually the boss. And so for me, what got me there, and it's years of making mistakes. To be honest, it's years of no's. It's years of God, I should have done that better. God, I could have done that better. It's learning. I mean, really, to be a good salesman in whatever you do, you have to be a master of your field. So when I was younger and I wasn't as accomplished, I was nervous if I went to go meet a billionaire because I knew that they were a billionaire and that they're an expert at what they do. And I internally didn't feel like I was. Today, I could meet anybody and have zero nerves because I really legitimately think that my systems, my process, my knowledge is honestly as good as it gets. So I think that getting into that world is very difficult because if you haven't done it or you don't know the right people, it's very hard to break in. But once you're in there, you better have the knowledge and the experience and the power to be able to say, no, as good as you are in your world, this is not correct in my world, and this is why. I was just with a billionaire who's worth $8 billion, and he gave me this whole formula of how to sell his house, and I was like, you're not going to recreate our system of selling houses. You created your system that made you billions, but this system's not going to be recreated. And if you want to go that way, it's not going to work. But 20 years ago, I wouldn't have had the confidence to be able to tell him that.
Yeah. Yep. Love it, man. So then, when it comes to, because not only do you have you built up the name and the clientele and so forth in your local market, which, so in the LA area, if you will, but now, I mean, that's also led to a global name, a global brand. What I guess took place to allow, you to be not just dominating your market, but now you're have market share globally?
Well, the world is very, very, very small and it's exceptionally connected. And I always tell people, watch every single move you make because one bad move could cost you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And so the people that are buying 20, 30, $100 million houses in LA also own 20, 30, $100 million houses in London, possibly New York. With COVID, our whole migrations have shifted to different cities. And so what I worked really hard on is, and this is one of the biggest secrets to my success. I don't even know if I could say this on your podcast, but I will. I do not like bullshit, and I like to tell it like it is. I like to tell the truth. And so I always tell people what I think, even if it can work against me. And I think that has led to me being an advisor and an educator rather than just a broker. And so I'll have royal family or people calling me from all over the world, asking me advice, wanting me to do deals for them. Like theoretically, I just got a call today, somebody wanting to do it in Paris for an $80 million sale. I'm not an expert in Paris. I know it, but I'm not an expert. But they said, Aaron, I really want your involvement. So how, what, and what's the next systems? And I said, look, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to get a partner in Paris, which I have. And I'm going to walk you through the steps. And I think ultimately, because they trust me and they trust my advice, they know that I'm not just about that commission. I'm about protecting them. And in this business, that's where it gets difficult, because if you need the money, you need the money, and that translates. And I call it like commission breath. People don't want to work with people that have commission breath because they want to know you're there for them, not for you. And so that honesty has been able to help me sell properties all over the world in markets that I am by no means an expert at, but I never pretend to be.
Yep. No, love that, man. So then, when it comes to, at this point, you've built up this, name and this brand and these relationships, and you might still be doing, a lot of marketing and stuff to gain new clientele, but you've also built this, amazing, I guess, book of amazing clients that, continues to grow. But if whether it was when you were getting started, if you were getting started today in this, or somebody that's watching and listening to this again wants to get like, what are the best ways when the era that we're in, or what's your best advice of how to start gaining those relationships? Right?
I would say that I teach, I have a team of 90. I teach my team that we do not have clients. I've sold $7 billion worth of houses, and I will be the first to admit I have no clients. I have an amazing book of business, but I don't believe I have a client. And the reason I say that is very strategic. With technology and with how fast the world works today, whoever's in front of the person's face at the right time, at the right moment, is going to get that deal. And the beautiful thing about where we are today is when I started 25 years ago, if they didn't know you, if people didn't know me, I was out of business. I had to build that relationship. Today, because real estate is so tech-based and there's so many platforms to be able to build a business, if you're out there in the right way, a customer that has worked with me for 20 years, and I'll say this to any agent, could be your client tomorrow. And as good as I am, I realized I had to up my ante because I was losing clients to people that were just in front of them at that time. And so if you're building a business and if you can afford to do it once, you have the knowledge, experience, and power, really utilize the tools that we're given today to be out there. Social media is incredible. The internet is incredible. SEO, PPC, television, if you could get on it. I mean, any one of these things are ways to be in front of your audience all the time. And if you're in front in the right way, anybody can build a business, and it's genius.
Yep. Love it, man. Powerful stuff, dude. So, when it comes back to, if we look at your business, I'll ask that question here in a minute. Let me actually circle back, because you made a comment about with COVID and, this time of this being recorded, what we got, January 11th today, 2021, but we're still in the thick of this thing. And, it's kind of put us all disrupted all of our lives in one way, shape, form, or fashion. And some, for good, some for bad, right, and so forth. What are things, because California has also been, a heavy hit area as well, with this. I mean, what are things that you have done to adapt to all these changes that happen in this crazy last 12 months?
Yeah, it's been a crazy, we ended up we had a banner year, actually. We sold about $750 million in real estate, which was pretty much my best year. When COVID first happened, I was freaked out. I was like, wow, this could be a devastating blow to our industry. Who would have known that our industry actually would have done an uptick through COVID? And I caution people that it really doesn't it makes sense that the home has become so important, but where we are and the fact that numbers are so high and homes are selling somewhat logistically doesn't make sense if you look at the global economy in general. And so what we did was we re-examined our business from ground up, and we looked at everything from what we were spending to how we were getting leads. And we literally erased what we were doing and we started again. And we worked on getting our cost structure down. But what we did, which I think was key to our success, was we unified the team, we unified our leadership, we organized our structure, and most importantly, we went all digital. So all of the money we would spend on everything, we just stopped, and we put all of our money on digital advertising, digital marketing. And I don't think agents really realize what that means. Companies are there to build a company. They're not there to help sell houses. So what we realized is if we put all of our money in building our brand, our look, our image, and the houses that we're selling, we'll ultimately be successful, which goes back to we don't have clients today because technology is so rampant that there's a way to get to anybody. I could get to anybody through technology. And so it's really important to embrace that, understand it, study it. And even if you can't be a big part of it, be a little part of it until you can be a big part of it. And if you don't have the money to invest, because it's expensive, you have to pay to play in this business. If you don't have that, then work for somebody that does until you could build your own brand, your own name, and your own portfolio.
Yep. Love it. Powerful stuff. So then, kind of pivoting and transitioning to you personally, I'm really curious with when it comes to, just your overall daily planning, your overall daily routine, because you've got this, a lot of agents on the team, plus you're still extremely active in the business, and it's just go in your world, and I'm curious on really, like, how do you keep it all together? I got to imagine you've got a pretty intensive, planning process, if you will, to fit everything in that you fit in.
What's really funny? So I started dating the guy who we're still together. So, but when we started dating, he's in the banking business, and he said, "What's your goal every month?" And I was like, "Babe, I have no goal. Like, I get what I get when I get it." And he goes, "Well, what's your team's goal?" I was like, "They're independent contractors. They're going to get what they get." And he thought I was out of my mind. This was just last year, by the way. And he says, "If you don't have a goal, you're out of business." And he goes, "And if you don't have a team for your goal and you're not helping your team get to where they want to be, they are out of business." And he was totally right. And so I set a goal for myself, and I set a goal for my team. And I said, "Look, theoretically, I want to sell 50 million a month personally, and I want my team to sell 50 million a month, and I want to hit that $100 million mark." And the minute we did that, we were able to set the lines of, are we successful or are we not this month? Am I on track or am I not? Are they on track or not? And so then we started picking up the phone and calling our team. We're like, "How are you doing this month? What can we do?" And from a sales standpoint, I always take the lowest fruit first. Whatever's there for the easiest grasp, we take, right? And then from there, you really do have to be organized and somewhat structured in your approach, because not only do I sell real estate, but I run a large team. And so, I have to figure out what's really important. And then on top of that, we do get a lot of media inquiries as well, which takes a lot of time. Probably 30% of my time is brand building. And I tell people it's great to sell houses because you make money, and that's how we live our lives, and that's how we eat and pay our bills. But if you're selling houses and you're not building a brand, you're completely out of business, because eventually you want the business to run full circle. And if an agent is doing their job right, you shouldn't always have to search for leads. You want leads to come to you. And the only way to do that is to make sure you have a brand that the public and agents know about. And so you should work as hard on your brand as you do selling houses, because eventually that brand is what's going to lead you to sell more houses.
Yep. Awesome. Powerful stuff, man. So then, how do you, because look, you've got all this stuff going on, as you mentioned. You're selling insane amounts of real estate yourself personally, plus this mega, team that's just, all the media stuff. How do you know what to say yes to and what to say no to? Because I got to imagine, man, you got so much coming at you and so many opportunities that are pitched at you and so forth. And, you can only say yes to so many things. I mean, how do you personally decipher and know what path to go?
We look at the opportunity each and every time and we go, one, is this productive? And are we going to make money with it? And if we're not going to make money with it, is there a reason why we do it? A lot of what I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I really do like to give back. And I love to see other people's success makes me really happy. Right. So there's going to be things that I do that are just here to help other people. And karmically, like I always tell people, give back, because the more you give, the more you're going to get. Give of your money, give of your time, give of your energy, because in return, it'll all come back to you. And so, we always kind of break our day up into a couple factors. One, our team. How's our team going to grow? How are we going to get our 90 to where they need to be today? Two, I still run a sales business, so I need to make sure my business is on track and I'm taking great care of my clients. And then last but not least, it goes into media, publicity, and help, education. How can we help people to be successful? Because ultimately, everyone's success is everyone's success. And I think people forget that in our business. We see each other as competitors, but really we need to see each other as people who as a community can unite and be stronger. And this business can be a very, very, very lonely business. If you're alone and you don't have partners and you don't have a team behind you, like, you're alone. And so I decided a long time ago, I would rather be a dolphin and not a shark. And I would rather have a group of people behind me that I have fun with, that I like, that we can grow, that we can build, and that each other's success helps breed more success.
Yep. Love it, man. So then, you've been in this business now for, what was, I know we didn't talk at the beginning, but I know it's been over 2 decades.
4 years. I'm 42, and I've been in business since I was 18, maybe even 17. So.
That's amazing, man. So, that's what, early, prior to 2000, right?
Correct.
So, I got into business in 2005, and even with that, there was no smartphones, there wasn't DocuSign, there wasn't it was a different game. And you've seen a lot of changes, not only from a technology standpoint, consumer behavior standpoint, I'm sure. And then, obviously market crashes, ups, downs, booms, busts, right? You've .com bubble, then, 9/11 and the Great Recession, and now COVID and so forth. Based on all of this, I guess this is a two-part question of, number one, what has been the biggest key that you think has allowed you to shift and adapt during those times?
Yeah.
So you didn't, drop out like a lot of people did during those tough shifts. Yeah. Well, let's just start there, and then I'll go into the second part of that.
I think one of the challenges that agents have, a lot of agents are just in the box thinkers. Like, they do what they're told, they go to their coaching has a way, they have a formula, the formula works. I think that where I've always been able to succeed is I always analyze where we are, where we're going, and what the future is going to be. And I try to be a step ahead of the game. I have a lot of people that I know of that were successful 10 years ago and are not today. And I have a lot of the younger generation that came in a year or two ago and are absolutely killing it. And I think that this business changes extremely rapidly all the time. And if you're not studying it, adapting, embracing, and changing, you're going to be behind and you're going to fall out. And so I think the key to my success has been always doing my best to be ahead of the game, figuring out where we're going to be and figure out where we're going to go, for better or for worse. When the big crash happened, I knew the big crash was going to happen, because I remember the day I went to McDonald's and I got some French fries, and I remember the person giving me French fries said that they own a home. And I said, how much is that? And I swear she said something like $680,000. I'm not even making this up. And she worked at McDonald's. And I said, if this person owns this home right now, we are in trouble because they were giving too much money out. So what I did before the crash was I aligned myself with a ton of banks. I just called a bunch of banks and was like, hey, we have this division. It's going to be a great division. By the way, I'm a luxury guy. So I said, but if you have the right luxury, we would love to work with you. And it really helped get us through that moment in time. September 11 happened. I remember I had 30 escrows. On that day, I lost 30 escrows. No joke. Everyone backed out. And I just was persistent, and you fight it and you work hard. And one of the things that I've always taught myself to do is you have to be knowledgeable. You have to know the market. You have to know where we're going. You have to know the good and the bad. But you also have to stay in your lane and focus on you and your job and how you can be the most successful. 8 years ago, 9 years ago, I knew that if I just stayed alone as an agent, I was probably going to start to decline, because I'd already done a couple billion, $5 billion in sales, or $4, I don't even know what I was at that point. And I was getting a little tired. And I thought to myself, my next step is to get a team, because I want to now be a leader. I now want to build a business. And that then infused my business to a whole new level. A couple years after that, got bored again. And I thought, maybe I should do TV. I was like, TV is a good, venue, because I got frustrated watching $1 Million Listing and selling. I mean, these shows made our job look so easy and so fabulous. I was like, they're not. It's a hard, rough, tough life. Not to be negative, but it is. And so if you don't have the right approach and the right style, then you're going to. So I always kind of try to evolve and figure out, well, what's my next step and how can I stay ahead of the game? And I notice the people at the top are so revolutionary, and they're out of the box thinkers, and they don't just stay with the grain. And I would love to see more younger, I don't mean in age, I just mean agents in general, think out of the box and do things that they might win or lose on, because without the risk, you'll never know.
Yep. Awesome, man. So then, then I'm curious with the industry, and this is maybe a tough question because it's so hard to predict, the future. And I'm not speaking of, there's a lot of talk now of the market crashing, like you said. I mean, a lot of things just don't make sense right now. And that, may or may not be part of your answer. But really, I mean, what I'm thinking more of, or coming from a space of, is, with what you've seen in these last 24 years, as well as the trends that you're seeing now, what are things that, you're doing to prepare for, future shifts, changes of, just the general trends that, you are, kind of future pacing that could happen in our industry, as well as what other agents should be doing?
Yeah. First and foremost, whether markets are good or markets are bad, I always tell people, we just need to transact. As long as we're transacting in a good or bad market, we're okay. Maybe harder to transact, but if it becomes a buyer's market, as long as you're transacting with buyers and you're setting yourself up, you're great. The other thing I always tell people is figure out what niche is yours and why you are the leader of that niche. And I say that for a reason. And I'm not saying this is going to happen, and I hope it does not. But, I study businesses. Businesses have changed every year, day in and day out. Uber changed the taxi driver business 100%, right? Tesla changed the car industry and automotive business 100%. Amazon changed the way we shop. And so I wouldn't be surprised if something changes the way we work. And so I'd say that even if something like that happens, or there's a technology, and I don't think it will, because selling real estate is so emotional and honestly case specific, but the best thing somebody can do is be a market leader, own a house, a neighborhood, a product, because then you are of value. If you're just one of the 2.7 million agents that are licensed in the country, you're not necessarily giving value. So God forbid something changed in our world, I could officially say I am a luxury leader of luxury homes with the best connections. And therefore I am ready for any shift that can happen because I prepared myself to be so.
Yep. Awesome, man. Love it, dude. So then I'm curious, 24 years in the business. And with that, you got in so young, you're still a young guy, man. You got a lot of, as you're going through this, but look, in order to continue to create success, like we got to be able to stay in the game and not just from a survival and adapting standpoint, as we talked about, but so much of success is just up here. And, it's easy to get burnt out. It's easy to get into some dark mental places. We're in an emotional industry. And, from a mental standpoint, what has allowed you to continue pushing throughout the years, as well as continue pushing, today, even through those dark times, to keep, again, not just being in the game, but creating all the success and momentum you have?
I think, I always try to recreate. I always try to build. I always try to figure out what my next venture is. But I think from a transactional standpoint, I view our business as a game of chess. And I always kind of see it like you're going to win some and you're going to lose some. And as long as you're winning more than you're losing, you're okay. And even if you're losing more than you're winning, as long as you're not taking it personal, eventually you're going to turn that around as well. Every day, something good happens and something bad happens. Clients get upset. A deal doesn't go through. I lose a deal as good as I am. It's a numbers game. It's a volume game. And so I think that game of chess has always helped me because the stakes, especially at my level, can be so high. And, you lose one house and you could lose $2 million. And if you start to get in your head of, oh my God, I just lost a $2 million deal, that could bring you down. And now you can lose $4 and $6 and $8 million. So the best thing you can do is kind of analyze what went wrong, forgive yourself, say you'll do better, and move to the next deal. And the reverse goes for if I'm successful. If I sell a huge deal and I sell a house, I celebrate that sale for all of half a second. I don't even know I don't even think I take myself out to dinner. I'm not sure I take a trip because we're only as good as our last sale. So I then, if a deal is closed, I might tap myself on the back or tap my partner on the back and be like, that was awesome, congrats, be happy, but I'm moving on. And so I think the key is to just protect your space. And I think the only real way to do that is to protect yourself. So first and foremost, business is really important for us because that's how we pay our bills, that's how we live our lives. But if you're not in a good space, if you're not in a good mental space, if you don't have the right physical condition, you're not going to be good for your clients. So I always say, let's take care of ourselves first. Let's take care of our families first. Let's make sure we're in the right spot. And as long as we're in the right spot, then we're going to be good for our clients as well, whether it goes good or bad, and then be able to figure out our next step. And so never take it to heart. From everything, every no for me, every mistake, honestly, it's so cheesy to say, but I wasn't this guy. I didn't grow up in a family of wealth connected to Saudis and presidents and CEOs. That wasn't my world. I built the world. I had to do it from ground up. And there were so many rejections. There were so many no's. There were so many losses. And looking back, I'm like, I'm glad I had that loss because I learned this is what I should not do. Or I learned that even though I did everything right, sometimes you're not going to win. And that's okay too. And what I really learned, and this was the most important lesson, is when I was younger and I didn't have what I have and I wasn't where I was, I thought everyone else was better than me. It was a self-esteem issue from growing up. But I learned telling the truth, being honest, being sincere, and being 100% authentic will get you so much further. And that authenticity is what I think makes people feel very comfortable with me. And they know that I'm going to be super honest. And instead of telling people what they want to hear, I kind of do the opposite. I'm like, look, you have a great house, but you're not going to get X dollars for it because of this X, Y, and Z. And when other agents go in and they're like, oh, you have a beautiful house, I can do it. And I say, you're not, because of smart people want to know the truth. They want to know the reality. And they want to know that somebody's thinking deeper than just yes, ma'am or sir.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So then I'm curious with you talked earlier in the podcast about, the conversation that you were having with your boyfriend that, like, I think you said 18 months ago about goal setting. Before that, you didn't have an annual goal, monthly goal, and it got you on target there. And, I'm curious, has that led into, creating beyond that 1 year? I mean, do you have a certain vision now for where you see this in 5, so now, 10, 20 years?
It changed everything, because with goals, we were accomplishing our goals. We were making our numbers. So now our numbers are up. And now we want to, I went from wanting to do 50 million personal a month to 70. And I want my team to go from 50 to 100. And how are we going to get there? Because I can't do it myself, right? I'm only one guy, and I have such a limited amount of time. So now we're talking about building the team, building the media deal, building the thread, and that makes it more fun, because now we're not just running this house, we're really running what we believe is a real estate empire. And so with the goals, with the strategy comes more goals, and comes more strategy, and comes deeper thinking, and comes more unique thinking. I mean, when COVID hit, we literally wiped out our website. We're spending a ton of money. It hasn't even launched yet, but our website is so advanced. It's going to have like AI. It has this incredible artificial intelligence. We're going to know who's looking to buy or sell a house before they actually know, just based on the trajectory of AI. This is the beauty of where we are today. And so I think that the day you're not excited, the day you're not having fun, and the day that you're not motivated to do well is the day that you're not going to do well. And so I even afford myself with, if I know I'm having a bad day, or if something's off, I'm not going to call clients that day. Because if my energy is not good, I'm not going to translate to good energy for them, which means, quite frankly, I'm not going to make any sales. And I'm evolved enough to know, my staff is always like, we'll have a list of calls, hundreds of calls every day. And my staff is trained to help me make those goals. But I am trained enough to know when my energy is not right. I'm like, no, I'm not going to make that call today. I'll roll that till tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I'm curious because, man, we can all hear and feel, even if it's, through audio or through somebody maybe watching this on YouTube, that you're just passionate about working with selling real estate yourself, as well as, being a coach and a mentor and being there for your agents. And do you ever feel pulled more towards one than the other, or is it just kind of, you just love them both so much, or do you see yourself, kind of gravitating later down the road into just, being there more of coaching and training agents versus more selling? Or
it's funny. I always think I would gravitate more towards team leadership and growing the team without me to be multi-billion dollars. We're pretty close. But the weird thing is, when I don't sell, I really miss it. And look, to be truthful, there's aspects of our job that I absolutely hate. Like, if I never have a sewer renegotiation or a retaining wall issue, or sometimes I'm fighting with somebody worth $50 million over 10,000. These are the things that can get very frustrating, and you're just like ready to pull your head out. But on the flip side, dealing with people and being successful and having fun, and it's the art of the game, right? And it still drives me, and I still have fun, and I still love it. What I did learn though, and I stand by is, instinctivly, we know when we're going to make money or when we're not going to make money, or when somebody's good or when somebody's bad. We know. And, there's always that 1% chance. And today I stopped working on just, can I make that 1% chance? If my gut tells me I'm not going to do well for this person, they're not going to like me, the house is bad, it's not a fit, I just move to my next house, because the universe has its way, and we know. And so I think what's really important in our business is, I call it finding your people. know who your people are, know who you're going to gravitate to, know who's going to gravitate to you, because that energy is going to keep the door open for a flow. And I remember that year that I had a bad year, I got back, I can't even remember what year it was, and I fired every single one of my clients. And I had about $450 million in inventory at that point. And I went one day from $450 million in inventory to zero. And I changed companies from a very luxury brand at the time to a company that I was hired to build a luxury brand for. And I remember scared. I was like, wow, I went from all this inventory to zero. But within like 3 months, I think I had something like 600 million in inventory. And they were the right people. They were the right houses. They were the right people. And I got my flow back. And so I learned, keep the door open for the people that are good and good for you. And if they're not, close the door and move to the next person, even if you can't afford to do it.
Yep. Awesome stuff, man. So I got one last question for you here, but before we jump into that last question, for everybody that's watching and listening, if they want to, just continue watching you and following you on this amazing journey, maybe an agent in your marketplace that wants to talk to you about joining your amazing team and being mentored by you. If they have a referral for you, any of that, where is the best place and to go out there and continue to follow you and get in touch with all of that?
Super easy. You could email me, aaron@aaronkirman.com, or Instagram, Aaron Kirman is my handle. We pride ourselves on being accessible to everyone. We love to help people as much as we can. And, ultimately, every day we're like, look, how can we be of service? How can we be of service to our community, our agents, our clients? And I have to remember that, because some days when the schedule gets so crazy, you're like, and then I just kind of bring myself back into mode. I'm like, you know what? We're here to be of service, and being of service actually helps us financially too. So, we're also building a YouTube channel, which is new. We just started filming it. And so it should be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, those watching, listening, wherever you're at, whatever medium that you're on, if you just scroll right below, we'll have all of those links, all Aaron's social handles, all of that right below. So, all right. So one last question for you here. Knowing everything you know now today, if Aaron today could go back and have a conversation with your 18-year-old self when you're first jumping into this industry, and give yourself 2 or 3 pieces of advice that you would have felt just changed the game for you, just kind of fast forwarded this success journey that you're on, what would that advice be?
I've been asked this before, and it's always kind of a tough question. I think the basic answer is you are good enough and you can do it, because it took me at least 17 years or 15 years to start getting that level of confidence based on a lot of no's and mistakes. But if I was starting in this business, anybody can do it today, and that person is good enough. And if I could do it all over again, I would just probably have a little bit more fun along the way, and I would take more time for myself, and I would know that person to my left or the right, or the person that's selling more, that's possible, and we can get there, and we could get there quicker. I think today I could have got there a lot quicker had I had the confidence that I had today, but I didn't have it. And it wasn't until I kind of made it that gave me that confidence. And I wish I had it before I made it, because we all have it in us to succeed. And say what you may about where we are politically and historically in the world, but I still believe we live in, the greatest country to be able to be successful no matter where you start. And it's our time. It's our time to start. We have all the rights. We have all the freedoms. From hardship comes lesson. And so, in our business, COVID taught us one thing: family is so important, and where we live is so important. And that's why we're doing well. And that's only going to grow. And if you're not where you want to be, get a good mentor, get a good teacher, read, write, study. And when you go to those appointments, if you know that you're an expert, even if somebody sold $80 million and you sold 10, you have a chance. I've had clients literally tell me they don't want to go with me because they think I'm too busy. and they would rather go with somebody with a lesser portfolio, and that means anybody can get it.
Yep. Amazing stuff, man. And Aaron, dude, I know how busy you are, and the fact that you took an hour out of your busy day to be here with us and share your amazing journey and all this information with us, man. It means so much, and truly an honor, my friend.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Anytime, and if anybody has any questions, send us a Insta message, and we're happy to answer. And it was an honor to be on your show, so thank you as well.
Yeah, 100%, my friend. And those watching and listening, again, if you scroll right below, we'll have all of Aaron's contact information, all of that right below. And as always, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for watching and listening. Thank you for all your support. Keep kicking ass, and we will see you next time. Peace.
Bye, guys. See you.
I hope you enjoyed this GSD Mode podcast episode. Now make sure you get shit done and smash that subscribe button now.